So, you think you want to be a demand planner and forecast. Let's be honest. Most everybody out there just finds themselves in this field by accident. You're probably in this field wondering right now, what the hell are you doing and is this field for you? Guess what? You come to the right place. Let's get started. Welcome. My name is Eric Wilson. I am your not so humble but very passionate host of IBF On Demand. And we have a very passionate sponsor in IBF, your one-stop S&OP software solution. Happy to have them on board. And I said, you come to the right place to talk about demand planning, forecasting, predictive analytics, S&OP, everything related to this field. And you're in it right now figuring out exactly maybe what to do. Because guess what? I've seen, kindergartners and first graders in grade school, and they ask what they want to be when they grow up. I haven't found one yet that said, hey, I'm going to be a demand planner when I grow up. It's not how you get here. Me personally, tell you a little bit about my story. I was actually in college and opened up my first business, very successful business, buying and selling textbooks. And it actually became a nationwide, buying and selling textbooks nationwide. And from there, I decided to open up a second business, a retail business, because I figured everything I touched was gold. So I opened up a retail business, totally different animal than a wholesale business. And I didn't have those skill sets really for retail at that time. And after a couple of years, I found myself in a position where I was putting more and more of my own money into it, and it wasn't making it. So I brought in a consultant. They sat across from me. And that consultant, after 2 days and paying them lots of money, said, this business won't succeed as long as you're sitting in that seat. I'm like, what do you mean? Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. But I learned a valuable lesson that I couldn't wear every hat and think I was going to succeed in business. From there, I ended up actually selling that business and starting working for some other companies. And with that, I evaluated exactly what I enjoyed doing and what actually was my passion. What actually motivated me inside business, because I wore every hat. So I had experience doing everything. And what I found I enjoyed the most was really that forecasting, the supply chain, the demand planning, the understanding the inventory aspects of things, figuring out what was going to happen. I heard a great quote, and people pick on me because I use this quote a lot at conferences. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And that really is true in business. The person that can see what's going to happen in the future is really king. And I found out that person is forecasting. It's demand planning. They're the ones that can see what's happening. Every decision is based on a forward-looking position, on forward-looking projection. That's a forecast. You, in essence, are running the business as a forecasting and demand planner. That's the reason I started in this field over 20 years ago and still in it today, because I found out that's what I enjoyed the most. But my story is unique. Other people really come from a supply planning, come from finance, come from some type of analyst position, and they're put into demand planning and say, okay, figure it out. And that's what I'm going to help you out with today, is really figure it out of if this is the right role, and if you're new into this field, if this is going to be right for you. I said, my name is Eric Wilson. I got over 20 years experience. Right now, I'm locked down in a bunker somewhere in the middle of Kentucky doing these IBF On Demand podcasts. So thank you for tuning in. I have a little bit of background experience in this, and I get a lot of these questions a lot, and hopefully some insights for you today on what exactly is a demand planner and if it's the right field for you. And if it is, what do you need to be doing to grow in this profession? One of the many things that happened in my career was one time I had an intern working for me. His name was Hari. And he was an intern going to college at the time, trying to figure out exactly what profession he should go into. And he was working, and we had him doing some, forecasting, demand planning internship. He was going through a lot of different types of internships, and he landed on this one. It's one of his final ones, really trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And He never really considered it beforehand. And after about, the semester, I remember him coming up to me in our office and asking me a question when he was deciding exactly his career path and what he was going to do for a master's thesis. And his words were, is demand planning really this exciting? Or do you just make it sound that way? I think the truth is both. Yes, obviously I have a passion for this. Obviously I express that passion to others, and I want people to feel that passion in what we do. But truly, I do think it is that exciting. There's a lot of what we do. It's one of the most unique roles you can be in. Think about the role. It's mixing that analytical mindset and analytical capabilities with that strategic outlook and that communication and that collaboration and being able to tell stories. Everything that we do. I mean, it's such a diverse role with a diverse group of people that do that role inside organizations. You touch every aspect in an organization. You have the capability of moving into any function pretty much from a demand planning and forecasting analyst type role. So it's a great opportunity to really build those business acumen and skills that you can carry into other types of fields as well. So it truly is a unique mix, and it is that exciting, in my opinion. And I think that a lot of people are starting to understand that. Obviously, I mean, at the time I'm recording this, we're still going through this global pandemic. There's still things shut down. I mean, right now, they're starting to open up our area right now. I'm staying in out of choice just because I'm an introvert and don't like people. But so I'm still hunkered down in my bunker here in Kentucky. But they're starting to let people out. But business has been shut down for months. And it's impacting finances of companies and really business in whole. And when they're talking right now to CEOs and CFOs, and they did a survey recently, and they said, what's the biggest thing that you're looking at right now? Number one was, how long is this going to last? Understandably. Number two was cash flow, because right now cash is pretty much in short supply in some organizations. Some companies won't make it. Number three on that list was forecasting and demand planning. Right now we're elevated to number three on that list of what they're looking at. As far as functions, we're almost number one on that list of what they're looking at to be able to provide insights going forward. So we've raised our importance inside organizations. We have to start living up to that. And I said it's an exciting time going forward. As we come out of this, we're going to be starting to look at us more and more of what we can provide and those insights. And our roles with that are expanding. It's no longer a supply chain function. It's now a independent function that's really offering insights not only to supply chain. Very important. The last podcast I did talked a little about supply chain, but it's also feeding finance information as well. And we're feeding those CEOs information, especially during these times. So it's an important role going forward. What can you expect? Right now, IBF does a survey. Every year we do surveys. And one of the things we look at is benchmarking for salaries. So if you currently have an organization and you're looking to, hey, how do we benchmark salaries? What's different job descriptions we have in this field? All that information is available at ibf.org. So for members, go check out the salary reports. We put them out frequently. You can also check out the job descriptions, things of that sort at the ibf.org. But I'll give you some insights on what exactly they're looking at. Right now, according to the IBF salary reports, a forecast analyst is right now about an $80,000, $90,000 job, depending on where you are, obviously. But that's what you're looking at right now. I mean, consider that compared to $50,000, $60,000 for an entry-level analyst in most other functions. You're looking at $80,000 to $90,000 for a good forecast analyst. If you looking at a demand manager, you're easily at $110,000, $120,000 when you start getting into that demand manager role. Directors, $150,000 up. So this is on pace with most other functions, And as I said, as we see the increased visibility of it and increased need, those are going to nothing but go up because you're going to see more demand for it and less supply of people being able to fill those roles. Because it does take that unique person. That unique person is someone that's going to needs to be fed into this organization. Which really brings me to the next part and kind of one of the keys I want to talk about in this podcast. One of the key things I wanted to discuss in this podcast was really, who is that right person and are you that right person? Because that's what I want you to understand and ask yourself. A lot of times you get those choices between the technical, the industry experience, or those soft skills. And be honest, if I had to choose between those, I guess you could call it a soft. I don't want to call it a soft skill. But ultimately, what I want to look at is the interest and the passion that I talked about. Do you have that passion for the field? Do you have that interest in the field? Those things, I think, will trump a technology expertise, the analytical side of it, the industrial experience side of it. Guess what? We can teach most of those things. If you have an analytical bent, you can make it become an analytically professional and more proficient at it. Industry, as important as people think that is, guess what? I've been in multiple industries and it's transferable, the information, and you're dealing with a lot of the same problems. So what it comes down to is, can you teach the person? And you can teach the person if they have that interest and passion. And I'm not the only one saying this. There's a lot of countless psychological studies have been done on that. They used to think you have technology was most efficient, but guess what? They found it is actually reversed. That interest actually creates proficiency. So interest is the first and key step. And you can find this, there's numerous books. There's Give and Take by Adam Grant talks a little bit about that. You can actually look at Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers and really infer from what he's talking about of the interest makes you proficient at certain things. The Gallup surveys, if you ever look at a great, as far as personal skill sets and developing what your strength finder is, what it's talked about, through Gallup, that talks a little, that same concept about looking at the interest and what makes you passionate first and foremost. Because I think that is truly what they found drives the person to better behavior and better proficiency in the future. I said this is found. The Montessori philosophy. We sent my daughter to Montessori school, built on this philosophy that kids learn based on what they're most interested in, instead of trying to force feed them a curriculum of teach them this textbook, teach them that textbook. It allows them to focus on what they're interested in first, and guess what? They learn better. It's no different. I'm a kid at heart. Our learning style doesn't really change much when we get into professional field. I'm 50 years old, and guess what? I'm still going to learn a lot better on something that I'm interested in. So that's first and foremost. So how does this relate to my advice to you now when you're looking at a career path and what you need to do? My first piece of advice, and to let you understand where this podcast came from, we did this recently, town halls, and I got 2 questions of people saying they just started in this field. They're during this pandemic. What do we do? What advice do you have for us just starting off? And this was my advice based on everything I've just said up to this point. Number 1, understand what you want to do professionally. Understand your strengths, what your weaknesses are, what your interests are. What's that thing that you do during the day that you totally lose track of time with? What's that thing that at night you're still thinking about and you can't get out of your head and you look forward to working on? Those type of things, those are your interests. Those are your passions. Key in on those, especially if you're new in this career. Key in on what makes you excited every day. What's your strengths? What things are you naturally good at? one of my strengths is being able to see things as disconnected and kind of find those connections between them. That was one of my strengths. How could I use that? It's easy when you're looking at forecasting and being able to collaborate and bringing in multiple assumptions and bringing them together on the same page. That was a strength that I understood that I had. I like taking chaos and creating structure. That was an interest I had. Guess what? That's a daily job for forecasting. We work in ambiguity on a daily basis. And being able to take that chaos and creating some type of structure that then I can explain to somebody else is something I enjoyed doing. I like looking strategically at things. Those were interests of mine, but those are mine. What's yours? And guess what? When you go through this process, you may find out that it's not in demand planning. You may have an interest for money and finance side of it. You may have interest for the supply side. You may like to walk around with a fire hose on your shoulder and constantly putting out new fires every day. That may be a passion of yours then. It may be leaning towards other types of things that you can use your analytical skills and communication skills for as well. So you may find out that your passions, your strengths, your weaknesses aren't exactly demand planning. That's okay. I want people in this field that are passionate about it, and I want you to grow out of this field into something you enjoy as well. So my second piece of advice after understanding exactly what you want to do professionally was then learn as much as you can about that. Dive in. Dive into understanding the discipline on it, understanding the processes behind it, understanding everything you can about that profession. What other people are doing. Watch the podcast. Listen to other people's podcasts. Go to demand-planning.com and just read what other practitioners are saying. You can go to ibf.org, understand exactly more about this field as well. I'll tell you one of the great things you can do, if you really want to see that water cooler talk and hear what people are talking about and what they're doing, is outside of this podcast, there's something much better on the IBF YouTube site. So if you go to the IBF YouTube channel, look at the S&OP Unplugs. I highly recommend them. What they are is they're a series of interviews that are done after each of the conferences. We have a series of them up you can check out for free on the YouTube site, that you can actually see these dialogue between these professionals in the field that's been doing it for years, talk about what they're doing and what they experience, the weaknesses, the challenges, the excitement, the opportunities. And they talk a lot about how they got started in this as well. So that's an excellent resource for you. I highly recommend going back to and checking out, because you need to understand those disciplines. The other thing that does, and I think even more importantly, it does teach the technical skills, because the technical skills will become vital. You need to understand those, how to exactly, you create the models, what's the process for them, different types of KPIs, and there's some technical expertise you're going to need to understand. I'm not taking those away, but what some of those technical expertise that you can learn help translate into is self-confidence. One of the biggest things I've found in hiring people, in promoting people, is that self-confidence. You'd be surprised what happens with that self-confidence behind what you do. And how do you build that self-confidence? It's not a fake it till you make it. It's starting to build your knowledge and understanding and comfort in what you're doing. The more comfortable you are at what you do, the more self-confidence you're going to build. I don't want this to be about me and talk about me, but guess what? I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm talking on podcasts. I said, I'm an introvert at heart. I talk at conferences all the time in front of thousands of people. I'm doing a podcast every 2 weeks. I'm talking to an audience of thousands out there that are listening to what I have to say. You're talking something outside of my comfort zone, but guess what? The more I do it, the more confidence I build. The more I understand exactly what you're looking for and being able to not communicate what I want to tell you to say, what I want you to hear, but what you want to hear, the more comfort I have in it, the more confidence I have to be able to do this. So it's no different than what you're doing in your field as a practitioner and forecasting and demand planner. It's building that confidence. And with that confidence comes continual learning, because guess what? Things continue to change and you need to be able to adapt with it as well. So continual learning is a key aspect of what we need to do going forward as well. Look at IBF training, look at other training, go to conferences, attend these conferences. We're going to get out of this and you're going to start seeing people face to face again. Come to a conference. Before then, we got virtual conferences. If we're still in a lockdown when you're watching this as well, you can attend and continuous learning. But you need to continue that learning to keep that confidence up as well. And the more technical you gain and you learn through it, the more it's going to show. The more it's going to show in what job you do, what capabilities you have, and then the continual learning. So my first thing was understand what you want to do professionally. The second, dive in. You also then would need to create a kind of a roadmap or career map for you. I highly encourage you to do this on your own. Don't wait for your company to really build out that career map for you. And everything I just talked about plays into this. If you understand where you want to go, you understand a little bit more about the discipline and what it does and how it can do things, start building out that career map. I said your career map may be the director of demand planning or vice president or CFO, whatever you want to be. Build your career map, how to get there. And that includes training. That includes continuing education. And guess what? If your company's not providing it for you, doesn't mean you still can't do it. I know people that understand the benefits of it, and I hate when the companies don't. And if you need help selling it to a company, let me know. I'd be happy to help sell it to an organization. Matter of fact, IBF even will come in to an organization and do training customized for your organization if you want. So, you can reach out to info@ibf.org, find out all the information about that, or go to the website, look at corporate services. They talk about the training that we can do in your organization. So there's no excuse. If you can't come out, we'll come to you. We can do it virtually now as well. So there's training available. But even outside of that, find other ways. Look at magazines, trade magazines, articles. There's things you can do at next to no cost that actually continues that education. Look at where the gaps you have and how you can actually build some of those communication skills. We have to be good communicators. You're a storyteller that uses numbers as your language. You're going to have to learn to be a good storyteller. You're going to have to learn to communicate better. I had one person actually tell me, he's a vice president of an organization now. When he started off as a demand planner, he went to Toastmasters to be able to build those communication skills. And guess what? Build the self-confidence to be able to talk to people impromptu and be able to have that dialogue more comfortably with executives and other people he has to deal with. That's just, that's something you could do, or find other ways you can build those different types of skill sets. Understand the job functions and understand the challenges you may have. As I said, it's an interesting job that incorporates a lot of different things. You can really mold and create the way you need to. So find out the way you like to have it inside your organization. See if you can work towards that, or see if there's other functions inside, other paths, or at some point there might be a path outside of your organization you have to consider as well. But you have to really own your own career map going forward. There is a lot of opportunity. I said, I've already talked about the opportunities in this field, the growing in this field. Real quick, if you're looking at degrees, there's obviously analytical degrees, supply chain degrees are helpful, but not necessarily needed anymore. I've seen people very successful that had, history degree. I've had to see people with arts degrees, Now, those may not be relatable as well. It's more of a capability of being educated and the learning process, the learning agility that comes with it. But if you're looking for your degree, find the degrees that really are going to fit your skill sets the best, whether it's going to be supply chain, analytics, business, to develop a business acumen, some skill sets, some degrees such as that they're transferable. One of the things, even outside of that I would recommend would be consider a CPF exam, a Certified Professional Forecaster. That's a forecast designation by the IBF, but it's recognized worldwide. Matter of fact, every Fortune 500 company has or had a CFP working for them. It's recognized worldwide as a designation for our field. So if you're looking at anything in the forecasting, demand planning, predictive analytics, S&OP, those related fields, consider a certified professional forecasting designation. And once again, I think a lot of it, the success in that is the preparation for it. The training and preparing for the certification is everything we talked about prior with the, building confidence, building the technical skills, building the foundational processes that you then take in and understand, the principles of what we do. Everything is tied up in that certification. So the success is really in the preparation for it, more so than the designation. The designation does carry weight, though. It does help you going forward. It helps you become more marketable, but it also helps company when they're looking at people to say, yeah, I know they check these boxes, technical skills done. They check those boxes, they're certified. Now I'm going to evaluate them on their passion, their interest, their soft skills, their learning agility. What else are they doing to be able to bring to the table as well? So it helps in that process for organizations as well. So highly recommend looking at that as a certification that fits for you. But I said the training is very valuable going into that as well. The other pieces of advice I have then would be, if you went through all this, if you decided that, yeah, this is a career path I want to go in, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but you decided this is a career path that you want to go forward with. You looked at it and said, okay, I've learned everything I could possible type situation. Okay, I've created my career roadmap. Now I have that down pat. And I've really, with that, filled in the blanks of that career roadmap with the right degree, right skills, right training, right certification. What else can I do now? My next piece of advice then would be I would give you a goal. I would give you a goal at speaking at a future conference or writing an article. And I'm not even going to say it has to be IBF. Love for it to be, but I don't say it has to be. We invite it. If you're interested in it, please check out and opportunities, sign up for future opportunities. But the reason I'm saying this is because that step of forcing yourself to write or speak is not only going to build valuable skill sets for your field, for our field, but also it forces you to master a subject matter. There's nothing like retaining information better than looking at something with a purpose of understanding that someday you're going to have to teach on it or speak on it or write about it. You really understand that information a lot better. And if you're looking for what to speak about, just look at everything else that's been written about. Find something that you have a different angle or you could expand upon, or something that you think is interesting. There's that word again. And that you just want to elaborate a little bit or give your take on it. And with that, that's your starting point. Google it, understand it, dive into that, find out as much as you can about that. Start putting together the outlines, the thing with the goal that you're going to be speaking or writing about it in the future. Matter of fact, when I had my demand planning teams, that was actually one of their goals I would put every year. They were not go to a conference. I want you to speak at a conference or write an article every year, because that helped that education, continuing education, that growth, that confidence, building skill sets, taking them out of their comfort zone sometimes, all those things that are necessities, it did. I highly encourage it. And guess what? You're thinking, I don't write. I'm not a speaker. I wasn't either. And I can't say that I'm great at it, but I do it now because it helps me continue to learn and continue to grow from all of you when I have to put a subject matter into words to present. It's not my words, it's everybody else's. I shamelessly steal from everybody else's and put together into something coherent that I can share with you. So that is what I recommend doing. If you're new to this field, new to this organization, or by chance you find yourself in between jobs right now because of what's happened in the pandemic, I recommend you check out the jobs board at ibf.org as well. There's a lot of great posts there of people still hiring today. We have an email blast comes out every Monday of new jobs that's coming out. There's employability that explains exactly a lot of the things I'm talking about. It explains it there as well. So I just want to talk in the closing few minutes here. Thank you for sticking around this long. That means you must have some kind of interest and passion for this. So in the last couple minutes here, I just want to say that this is a collective, like-minded nerd fest. It's a group of followers, fans, and fanatics, and I demand planning gurus that really enjoy and have an interest in this field. And if you're just a little bit on the edge of that, I recommend becoming a member, being part of this, reach out to the community, and find out, guess what? You're not alone. There's people out there that are just as mixed up as you are, found themselves forced into this field, and find out, hey, this is really where I belong. I can find opportunity here. I can find growth here. I can find something that I'm interested in here. And I hope that you have those passions. So back to that question that the intern Hari had for me. Is it really that interested? You just make it sound that way. Hopefully, because I am doing a podcast, half of this is for entertainment purposes, I admit. So hopefully, yes, I just make it sound that way. But also, hopefully, you can discover that it really is that way. And there's a lot of opportunity here. And hopefully I encouraged more people to kind of get into this field, look at demand planning, look at forecasting, predictive analytics, S&OP, all these related fields, find out where you fit into it, and find out how you can actually have a little bit of fun with what we're doing. This is IBF On Demand. We have a sponsor, Arkiva, your one-stop S&OP software solution. And we have an audience out there. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you're looking for in the future. And let me know if this is the field for you and how exactly you got your start. Comment down below or email me at eric@ibf.org. Look forward to seeing you at a future podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Download it there. Thank you very much. And don't forget, wash your hands.